off with the statement pursuant to the open meeting law, any person may make an audio or video recording of this public meeting or may transmit the meeting through any medium. Attendees are therefore advised that such recordings or transmissions are being made, whether perceived or unperceived, by those present and are deemed acknowledged and permissible. That being said, I'd like to have an attendance roll call, and I'll start with me. Joe Marshall here. Joan Medeiros.
Joan Medeiros here.
Johnny Erickson.
Johnny Erickson here.
Okay, Luis Gonzalez.
Here. Luis Gonzalez here.
Okay, Ann,
Here.
give your name, please.
Oh, Ann Keen here.
Okay. And also in attendance is Ken Fiola and John Coughlin and Sarah Page. All right. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the open session minutes from February 24th, 2021. Everyone has gotten a copy of those minutes. Is there any discussion, additions, deletions, or vote to approve?
I move we approve the minutes of 2/24.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second, Joan Medeiros.
Okay, by roll call, all in favor, Joe Marshall, yes. Luis,
Luis Gonzalez, yes.
Ann Keen,
Ann Keen, yes.
Joan Medeiros,
Joan Medeiros, yes.
and Johnny Erickson.
Erickson, yes.
Okay, so moved. Next item on the agenda is the approval of warrants and the brief financial report. It was kind of a small report on the warrant, but is there any discussion relative to that,
Oh, there it is.
to approve the warrant?
All right. Joan Medeiros, a motion to
question?
approve the warrant as presented.
As presented, good. Is there a second to Joan's motion? Who was that?
I second that, Luis Gonzalez.
Lewin's, okay. All in favor, Joe Marshall, yes. Ann Keen,
Ann Keen, yes.
Luis Gonzalez,
Luis Gonzalez, yes.
Johnny Erickson,
Erickson, yes.
and Joan Medeiros.
Joan Medeiros, yes.
Okay, so moved. Also on, under that same heading of brief financial report, is also, we also received an amendment to the Beta contract. And for those who may be listening, Beta is the engineering firm that we hired for the city pier and may be using further down the road. Sarah, you want to give us, or the board and the public, the background on that?
Yes, so Beta has given us amendments to their original contract, which we entered into in May. And this amendment brings us through the process of final drawings and going out to bid. And so it involves the bid documents and getting to construction. And they're still working through lots of issues. And so there's quite, there's a bit of work to be done before we go out to bid at the end of April, early May. And so this amendment deals with that work. And as I noted in memo, we will be, once we actually go to construction, we will have another amendment, but this will get us through the whole bidding process, deciding on a contractor, and take us to the point where we actually start construction, and then we'll have another amendment.
Okay.
And one detail that I wanted to mention is that there was $7,200 reserved in their amendment to cover the cost of a cost estimator. And Ken and I talked about it, and the cost estimator process was going to delay us by 2 weeks. And given a number of factors, we feel that Beta's cost estimate will be adequate. And so we've decided to eliminate that cost and that extra step.
Good.
Yeah.
Very good. Any board member have any questions of Sarah relative specifically to the amendment, or is there a vote to approve it?
Move we approve. the
Is there a
amendment.
second to that? Who is that, by the way? Johnny Erickson?
John Erickson.
Okay. Who's second to that? Anyone?
Joan Maderis, a second to that motion.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, Joe Marshall, yes. Ann Keen,
Ann Keen, yes.
Luis Gonzalez,
Louis Gonzalez, yes.
Johnny Erickson,
Erickson, yes.
and Joan Maderis.
Joan Maderis, yes.
Okay, so moved. Thank you. Next item is approval to select a consultant. We've had discussion about this. We'll have more, I'm sure. But to select a consultant to flag the wetlands on Innovation Way. I can just add, we've had, since we've been together, we've had discussion about how much land do we have available? Is it accurate? A lot of it's overgrown. So we've been bouncing this back and forth, whether or not we really need to flag the wetlands. And I think we've come to that road where I think the majority of us believe that we should select a consultant to flag the wetlands. Is there any discussion? Sarah, do you want to add anything to that?
I do.
think,
Yeah, I
Yeah.
talked with Renee at VHB about this today and just got a few more details because I thought that it was somewhat expensive, but
Yeah.
when you look at what they have to do, which she described, and we could talk with her more about if people want to, they're going to spend 5 days doing the flagging. They say that you often don't need a surveyor, but because of the cover, the incredible density of the woods there, they are going to bring a surveyor. And she gave me a lot of details, but she said that they're basically flagging 2 miles, and it's just a huge amount of work with highly qualified people doing the work. And I did get another kind of quick bid from another firm that we have worked with and respect, and their bid was significantly less and not in anywhere near as detailed as this. I think the level of detail shows how much thought they've given this and how comprehensive it will be. The other firm I called and said, another firm has said that they would need a surveyor out there. Is that your opinion? And was told, well, if the woods are dense, yes, we would want to do that. Well, that really threw me because anyone who's been out there knows how dense the woods are. And so it made me feel as though that was not a helpful bid. And a reason that I think a number of us feel we want to go with VHB is that they flagged it back in 2005. They've gone
Yep.
out and flagged numerous other times, and they really, really know this site. And I think their bid shows that. Ken, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, so I just received, I think as you did, Sarah, we just received this late today.
Right.
Yes.
So they have, if you look at the scope of services, they have, under 1.0, they have wetland flag in a 14,800.
Yes,
Then you have, under 2.0, you have limited wetland flag survey
yes,
for 14.5. And then when you look at the total cost of their request here, it's, it's 34.3.
yes.
I was reading this as that we had a choice between one or two, not that we were doing both 1 and 2.
You know what? You're right. I'm looking at that right now too, Ken.
Yeah, but they added it all up to be 34,000 on the front.
Yeah, but I'm thinking it's an error.
Yeah,
Mm,
because
I
you got four,
I
you got 14. I don't think why would you do a limited and a full? I think you're doing either one.
This is what she explained to me, and I think this is the reason that
Okay,
they will go out and flag the wetlands outside the conservation easement area. And within the conservation easement, they will not do as extensive a job because it already is within the easement. So they will go to much greater lengths outside that. And the importance of that is to identify new potential new wetlands if they exist. And that their limited flagging would be within the conservation easement because since it's already in an easement, they don't think they need to go to the same lengths.
right. And let me add, Ken, too. I'm reading as I continue to look at this. The 1.0 talks about at the end of their work there, the deliverable will be wetland delineation, GPS location, and field notes. And then the deliverable on the second portion is an AutoCAD file of the wetland flags and associated buffers within the property, which is what Sarah's talking about right now.
Right. So I guess my point is this, right? So we've had these wetlands flagged numerous times by VHB.
Yep.
You may want to consider limiting their flagging to that area that's identified within the conservation restriction. I'm not sure what purpose it helps. I don't think it helps us if we go out to start identifying wetlands outside of that restriction that have not been identified before, because essentially you are now limiting your ability you're going to have less developable land potentially.
Well, yeah.
Right. And so to me, that doesn't make sense from a development standpoint. I would say that it's probably the responsibility of those who are purchasing the property to do their own wetland survey and come back to the Redevelopment Authority for those areas outside of the restriction area.
Well, one of the things, Ken, one of the reasons I felt we needed something like this is we don't know what land we really can market unless we get a sense on what's developable land. Am I going in the wrong direction?
Well, I think so. If you look at the attachment that they gave you.
Yes, yes.
So you have, what concerns me a little bit here is those red lines.
yep.
Yes.
Okay. So keep in mind that VHB has done this wetland survey forever.
Yep.
Never once during the course of those surveys did they identify these red lines.
Yeah.
These red lines are now referred to, if you look at it, as potential wetland areas in accordance with some Mass GIS and other soil polygon layer representing hydric soils and potential wetland areas.
Well,
So to me,
Yep.
we're just inviting potential trouble here and limiting developable land. If you just stay within your areas here, then it's the responsibility of those who purchase the
Yes.
property to do any additional wetland flagging.
Understood. Yeah, I see what you mean.
well, I want to speak to that. One issue is that what they're saying is they haven't flagged that area since 2005. And that it really hasn't been flagged in that particular area since the Innovation Way was put in. And that putting in a road can change the wetland delineation, and other things can as well. And the reason I thought we were anxious to do this is that if we take the land off the market with a developer who thinks they're buying a certain amount of land and then goes out and finds there is more wetland, we've taken it off the market and potentially don't really have a developer who can use it. So that was really the reason I thought we were doing this, was to confirm, does that exist or does it not?
Well, I can tell you that the eastern side of Innovation Way
Yeah,
is substantially higher than the roadway. Okay, if you drive down Innovation Way or up Innovation Way and you look to your left or your right towards the east, you'll see that that land actually mounds up. It's higher than the roadway. So any additional wetlands being created as a result of that roadway is almost impossible, because the water would never get up above
that's
that,
right.
that berm that's there.
But
So I think you could do it either way. I'm just saying that, you know, these were flagged. This was the original flagging. I'm not sure why they now have introduced this potential area. We know it's potential. It doesn't mean that it's definite. So do you want to spend the extra, you know, the money on potentiality, or just stay within what you have and let somebody else discover it if they so choose?
well, it showed up on Mass GIS, which is why they're now concerned about it.
Well, Mass GIS has been in there for years, so I don't
Right,
know.
but it wasn't on there before, they said. It's just recently shown up there. So-
I don't know. It's your call.
Yeah,
It's the board's call, you know.
yeah, it's the board's call. John Coughlin, do you have any comments on that at all?
I think my understanding, Joe, the reason we were doing this was to know in advance before we wasted 6 or 8 months with the
Well,
developer. only to
that was my
later on.
feeling too. That's
I don't
exactly
wanna-
my
I don't
feeling.
want to go look for wetlands for no purpose, but
Right.
we can throw it to the developer, but if they don't do it for 6 or 7 months into their due diligence,
No,
then, and it turns out that it is wetlands and it prohibits their project, well, now you've wasted 6 months. So
yeah,
whether you want to spend the money now or later, at some point, somebody's going to,
There's no guarantee that a developer would do a wetland survey.
maybe not, and that's up to them. So
but John, that you're on the same page as me. When we got into this, I want to know what we have available.
But I think
Yeah.
Ken's point, and I hear it, is you have to be careful what questions you ask sometimes,
Yeah.
and you got to live with the result. So
Yeah.
go in with your eyes wide open, because if it turns out that VHB finds wetlands there, it's going to reduce what you have available to develop, and that may be the ultimate result, but you just have to know what you're doing going in.
Well,
You
let me
may-
ask, go ahead.
They may get out there and do a wetland survey, and then they start poking around that red line area. That's just an aerial view of where they think that wetlands may or may not be, right? They haven't measured that. Okay, that's potential wetlands. That could easily expand, or could easily contract, or could easily not be there. But in the event that it expands, now you got a whole different animal, because now you're, you know, even with that, if that red area is correct there, that essentially makes that back parcel non-developable,
Right,
Mhm.
okay? No one, so from a development standpoint, no one goes looking for wetlands unless they're right, they're evident, right? So I don't, to me, it just seems that you stay within the context of what was identified. if they come back with, if they do their own wetland survey, then you can address it at that point. They would have paid for it as opposed to you. And then you can, it could address it.
Well, I'd like to hear from other members of the board if you have another opinion or you agree with some of the things you've heard today on this subject. Anybody else?
Yeah, it's Joan Maderis. So I
Yes,
have a
Joan.
question. And we all received this late this afternoon, so
Yeah,
I'm not sure any of us have had a great deal of time to look at it, but these crosshatched sections on this map, are these already identified as wetlands?
Yes.
Okay, so,
And that's the conservation easement area that's considered a buffer. So
Right, so
there's,
the wetlands are those lines within that cross section. Those if you look,
Right.
there's, right, yeah.
so I'm of the opinion that that's already undevelopable land, isn't it?
correct.
that
Yep.
is.
Yeah,
Right.
so
There-
So I guess, Ken, to go to your issue, I almost am of the impression that there potentially could be a reduction in the wetlands based on that red line, the red lines they've got on this.
No, that's a reduction of developable lands. What they're saying is those red lines may be additional wetlands.
But they're overlaid on these crosshatched areas that I thought were wetland already.
There's a
There's-
section that extends out from the crosshatched area. I don't know
Okay.
if you see
Yeah,
that.
I see what
Yeah.
you're talking about.
That's the area.
Yeah,
The hope is you can put a large building back there. And if in fact that is truly wetland, that really restricts that.
oh,
Yeah.
And how
Right.
long do you want to wait to know the answer to that question? That's the question.
What's that, John?
How long do you want to wait to know the answer to that, if ever? And do you want
If
to push
ever.
that developer or do you want to do it yourself? That's the question.
Yeah, again, Ken hit it on the head. Well, you did, John. I want to know what developable land we have there, and that's why I wanted to consider having it flagged. That was my main thing. Do we still feel that way, that we should have it flagged?
So can I ask a quick question? The red lines are new, correct?
right.
Well, the red lines in the crosshatched areas aren't new. The crosshatched areas show the buffer protecting those red lines that are actually the wetlands.
But the
And
one
that
that,
was,
the one that has like a heart-shaped top to it in the white at the east side, that's all new, correct? I mean,
I'm not sure what you mean a heart-shaped.
this part right there.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't see it. You have to move that over.
So that's a pretty big area.
Area,
huge.
right.
Yeah,
I mean, that's been there.
So we don't know if that's there. That's potential.
No, I mean, well, I'm talking about the crosshatched area. I see what you mean about the heart. You're talking about that long elongated red heart in the white open space. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it's an issue, it carves out a big part of that good
It
land.
does.
Mhm.
Well, which doesn't make sense either, is if you look at that crosshatched area, and if you look at the black line that's going through that crosshatched area, they're saying that black line is wetlands, but they don't have those identified as part of this red area.
that's right.
Should we just, I mean, being that we just saw this should we discuss this further with Renee, do you think, Sarah, or?
I think so. It may
I don't really
board
understand.
members to help think this through some more.
Yeah, to
And-
find out what we really want after hearing everything that that we just heard. And I know we're in a hurry to really find out what we had available. Is it appropriate for us to table this? And if we need a special meeting, we can reconvene it? Is
I think
everyone
that's-
in agreement? If
Yeah.
Comfortable personally if we knew a little bit more.
table it? And
Yeah.
then Sarah, you can also get additional, well, you've heard what we've had to say, so you can question Renee on any of those issues and then maybe be specific as to what we are looking for.
Right.
Is that okay?
Yes, that's
All
fine.
right, so that being the case, why don't we table that item on the agenda? All right, in fact, let me I'm gonna need a roll call on that too. Is there a motion to table this until we get specific or more specific information?
My motion, we table till we learn a little bit more.
Okay,
Joan
that's
Maderis,
Johnny
second.
Erickson. Okay, who's second, please?
Joan Maderis.
Okay, all in favor, Joe Marshall, yes. Ian Keen,
Ann Keen, yes.
Louis Gonzalez,
Louis Gonzalez, yes.
Johnny Erickson,
Harrison, yes.
and Joan Maderis.
Joan Maderis, yes.
Okay, so moved. Thank you for the discussion. Next item, approval of Eastern Ice's request to build an additional 4,000 square foot building on their current premises at 281 Commerce Drive, Fall River. Do you have any, Sarah, do you have any background on that? I mean, I'm familiar with it, but it's just a matter of, they've got to go through us to build the additional 4,000 square feet on their premises. Is there anything we don't know about it?
Well, one thing that John Coughlin sent today is just one slight revision. We want to confirm the date of the board meeting where a previous approval was
Mm.
made. We didn't really need to put that item in this certificate, but we chose to. And
Okay.
so we would like you to approve this because
All right.
they can, as far as everything shows, they have they have plans and they're ready to
Yeah.
move forward. They've gotten approval from the city. And there's just this item above where we need to clarify the date of when they got an approval back in 2018. But in terms of everything else on here, Ken knows more. We've looked at their deed, we've looked at items in the urban renewal plan and really carefully analyzed it, and it looks like it's a logical addition that they're planning.
So not even if it was approved in 2018, it still looks like something we would approve, this board would approve in 2021, correct?
Well, what was approved then was one addition. When they originally
Okay.
built it, they really used very little of their land. And so they had really a much smaller building than would be typical for the size land they bought. And they, in the beginning, said that they would probably add future additions, and they've added one, and now they're adding another.
Okay. All right, is there any discussion with the members of the board or a motion to approve the request from Eastern Ice?
I move we approve the request from Eastern Ice for, it's 4,000 square feet, did you say?
Yes, yes.
Johnny,
Okay, that's made by John
John,
Erickson. Is there a second to that?
Joan Maderis, the second to the motion.
Okay, and all in favor, roll call, Joe Marshall, yes. Ann Keen,
Ann Keen, yes.
Louis Gonzalez,
Louis Gonzalez, yes.
Johnny Erickson,
Erickson, yes.
Joan Maderas.
Joan Maderas, yes.
Okay, so moved. Next item, project updates. We've got a lot of stuff going on. And I'm gonna ask either Ken or Sarah, they both can weigh in on these projects that they're all handling. The first item is the City Pier project located at 600 Duval Street. Ken, you've been involved in this way before us. Can you give us an update on that?
I can, but maybe what we can do is have Sarah just update the board as to, and John Erickson, because they've been actually a little bit more engaged with Beta in terms
Okay.
of the preparation of plans and specs.
All right, and you sprinkle your own knowledge in later. Yeah. Okay. Sarah, do you have anything to bring us up? Or even Johnny, either one.
Well, why don't I just give an overview and then Johnny can talk about the amazing redesign of the railings.
Okay.
So, you know, one of our goals that we were working hard on was to bring the cost down by simplifying some of the design. That's been done. The architect, Beta, the firm that we're working with, is working intensely on the drawings and final details so that we'll have construction drawings and can go out to bid at the end of the month. There have been some minor issues that have arisen and we're just working through those, and we've been having meetings with Beta staff and just getting those resolved. So it looks like we're moving in the right direction to get it out to bid end of April, early May. And I will pass it to Johnny for how the railings are being made more affordable, and they'll be included in the whole bid package.
Thank you.
Yeah, so what we did was we simplified the railings with instead of having stainless steel balustrades, we went with a simpler design. I think, Ann, did I go over this with you earlier? Yeah. And with horizontal cables, we gave the drawings to Glenn Hathaway. Sarah and I spoke with him last week. He's fine with it, and it should save quite a bit of money. And then that's pretty much it on the railings. And then Sarah and Ken and I were out with Beta last week, I believe it was, and they shot some grades and we walked the site, and that was actually very helpful. And Eric's off to the races on the refining the design. And
Right.
so-
Just again, so the public can understand, we want to get this project under budget, or at least within budget.
Right.
And that's why we're going through this exercise, and maybe it's causing delay, but at least it'll be done right. Okay, thanks.
I guess one thing that I just want to mention is one change that has been made is that we found we need to remove some material by Duval Street and the sidewalk to get the grades to align properly. So we're having to remove some more material, and that will be put on the southern side of the entrance driveway. And it will become kind of a berm, and that will get covered with grasses or something. So it changes the design a little bit, and everyone thinks it will look fine and solve this problem that we had to resolve.
Okay. Good. Ken, do you want to add anything before we go on?
No, I think, Sarah's been doing a great job coordinating the different meetings. And, it's been a pretty extensive discussions, but I think we're on the right track. And with any luck, we should be getting this out to bid within May for June bid opening, and it's, hopefully late June construction start.
Right. Good. All right. Thank you. Thanks for the update. Any questions, any comments from the rest of the board? Okay, hearing none. The next item is update on plans for 45 Aniwan Street, also known as the Liberty Utilities property. Sarah?
Great. Yes. So we're going to deal with this in executive session because it may involve a change in our purchase and sale agreement.
Oh, yeah.
But right now, what we wanted to just discuss is that Johnny, Ken, and I had a meeting with the mayor and talked with him about what we really want to do on that property, and really focused on the fact that there's the building on Water Street and the really large barn-like building in the back that we really want to focus on and develop some conceptual plans that we can then market to commercial realtors who can market those buildings to potential users. The mayor thought the idea of finding restaurants interested in both of those buildings, you know, potentially a brewery, was a really good idea. And we had visions of people being able to go and eat and then park and stay there and be able to go to the Narrows events and come back and have something else to eat. And so it seems as though restaurants there with parking interrelated with the Narrows and some of the other activities on the waterfront is a vision the mayor really liked and we think we can pursue.
Very good. Very good. It's an ongoing process right now.
Yes.
The next item on the agenda is the Bank Street Armory.
So the Bank Street Armory, our major step right now, we've talked with the person who's interested in purchasing it. He is still very interested and ready to go. And we are trying to get it appraised, which is a requirement for us to sell the property. And so what we're running into, and we're hearing this in other trades related to building, is that there's a lot of refinancing and a lot of building going on, and appraisers are saying it will take them 4 to 6 weeks to get this work done. And they're consistently saying that. Several of them said they just had so much work they wouldn't even bid on it. And so we still don't have a bid that is in the time frame that we wanted, which is no more than 4 weeks. So we're still calling some of the appraisers who said they were going to bid, trying to find out if they are and resolve who's going to appraise it. But it's been a little bit disappointing that we're having so much trouble finding an appraiser.
Well,
Right, and
it's Joan, you know, that timeline is actually pretty consistent for a commercial appraisal. So I'm not at all surprised with the timelines they're quoting you.
So 4 to 6 weeks you think is
reasonable.
4 weeks is typical, but given how busy the market is, I'm not surprised that they're going out to 6.
Yep. So one company, the company that Emily Innes suggested, and Ken also suggested, they have given us a quote, but they wouldn't have the appraisal actually done until mid-June. Because they can't start it right away. And then it will take them at least 4 weeks to do it. So
Sarah, let me ask you, have you kept the individual who's interested in buying the
we can't hear very well. Okay.
no,
good.
no, we have to wait for crime to settle down a bit.
Right.
Okay. All right. I think we're okay now. The have we kept the prospective buyer up to date with you know, what we're going through and that we're not ignoring him. Well, we have to wait for that to settle down.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I think
So,
we're good. So anyway,
Well, we were in touch with him recently. We haven't told him about how challenging finding appraiser is. I'm hoping that we'll this week resolve this and find someone who can at
Okay.
least do it within a reasonable time frame, and we'll tell him. I think in our last meeting with him, he said he knew how busy appraisers were. He's really involved in development, so I don't think this is going to be a big surprise to him.
no, but in my experience, it's better off reaching out to him,
Mhm.
you know, for a 2-minute conversation. He may say, oh, I know that, but it's still, I think it shows we're proactive and we're still working on it.
Good, that's a good point. I'll do that.
Sarah,
Sure.
it's Joan Maderas. You mentioned that one of these appraisers wouldn't even be able to deliver until mid-June.
Yeah.
Are any of them able to deliver to us mid-May to late May?
Well, they said that they were, but their proposals haven't come in, which is
Okay.
really disappointing. I talked with a few who called and asked a lot of questions and said they would get their proposals in by Monday, and it's Wednesday, and I now need to call them and ask them what's up.
Okay,
Well, may I, yeah, that's what I would do, because they may have thought, well, I can't meet the time frame that the RDA is expecting, so I don't think I'll submit a bid. Could you, based on the information Joan shared, can you kind of give them our feelings now that we understand how busy they are, and if they are interested in doing it, we understand it may not happen right away, but we're interested in getting it done.
Well, that's why I ended up having conversations with so many of them, because I began to realize that our time frame was something that people couldn't meet. So I
It's
started
unreasonable.
calling them and
Yeah.
telling them that, you know, nobody was able to meet our ideal timeline, so they should bid on it and let us know what they could do.
Okay, good.
So I can do more, you know, I can check in with a few more, but I talked with quite a few of them, and especially the ones that you all really recommended.
Yeah.
And, you know, a couple of them just said, I'm just so busy, I won't even bid on it.
Okay,
And I guess the other thing to say about that is that a few of them said this is a very difficult appraisal, which I don't think we had quite realized. Not only do they feel that they have to get comps for similar unusual buildings, you know, a school or other armory, a church, that kind of thing, but they also feel that they have to then get comps for that kind of building that has a restricted use, such like this one that says you can't use it for housing, it has to be an event center. So they're saying that that makes finding comps really difficult and will take a lot of time and effort on their part.
okay, may I add, when Mr. Tebow did the other two locations, he must have used, or they must have used, their community must have used someone to provide a quote on the building, the valuation of the buildings. Perhaps we could, in your conversation with him, ask what the other communities, and talk to those communities that he's done business with.
That's a good idea.
Okay, because we want to get this done. It's there and it's not done. Is there any other discussion on the Bank Street Armory? That's pretty much where we are.
it's Joan, just one item for clarification. Sarah, do I recollect that the reason we're appraising this is because of the state approval requirements?
Yes,
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes, yeah.
I guess my only observation would be that I'm not sure the other properties he's purchased are in Massachusetts, and he may not have been under the same restrictions, just
Right.
an ob-
Right, but I'm just looking for a company that has done those before, and if they're qualified enough to do it in Mass. I don't know what companies he used, or the
Right,
community used,
yep.
but it's another outlet. Anything else on the Bank Street? Okay, the next item is the feasibility analysis of the decking over I-195 to create a park. Ken, are
And
you involved? Ken, are you involved in that?
Yeah, I've been working with both Sarah and Bill Kenny, and to a lesser degree, John Coughlin on that. It appears now that I think we may have a resolution as to how this should go out, and I'll defer to Sarah for the explanation of the resolution.
So basically, we're simplifying the RFQ a bit. It's going to go out. We questioned whether it should go out with a price bid, and we're now we've gone back and forth so much. We're now going ahead and including a price bid in the RFQ, correct?
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
And so that was the piece that we were struggling with, and we're now approaching it that way. We're reworking it a little bit to simplify. The original RFQ talked about phase 1 and then the potential of working with the same firm on phase 2 and 3. And we were worried that that complicated it a bit, because we don't know, with a feasibility analysis, we may decide it can't be done and there will be no phase 2 and 3, or we'll go ahead. But we decided that would help clarify it a bit if we just removed the concept of future phases and just talked about the vision of decking it over, creating a park. One thing I want to say that Bill Kenny really was happy about and kind of felt vindicated is he found a photograph, and he brought photographs for all the board members. I think both of us were forgetting we wouldn't be seeing you in person and couldn't give them to you. But I have photographs for you of really a model of City Hall and buildings around it and a park over 195.
Very
Exactly
nice.
what we're talking about.
Oh, I
So-
can't wait to see that.
He was so excited.
Yeah, he does. He does.
That was part of the initial urban renewal plan for downtown.
It
Right.
had to
Back-
be.
Yeah,
Done back in the late 60s, early 70s.
Wow.
There was a lot of other buildings downtown as well, but they never moved forward with the plan in its beyond its conceptual stage.
Very good. That's good. Yeah, so we've come to a conclusion on that then, right? Sarah, as far as getting the study done?
Well, the conclusion is how exactly we want to put the RFQ out. So
Right.
I think that will be ready to go out hopefully next week.
Oh,
And
good.
then we have to give the bidders about a month, and then we'll be able to make a decision. But
Okay, good.
clearly this project, while we're really interested in it and supporting Bill and moving this forward, it's taken a back seat to City Pier and some of the other projects.
Oh, I'm sure.
that-
absolutely.
So it's just when there was too much to do, that was what was put aside. So
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you very much. Next item is the community planning and urban renewal plan for the Pleasant Street area of the Flint neighborhood. Ken, can I defer to you on that?
Sure. Once again, Sarah and myself have been working closely with Mike Dion, and also Mass Housing as it pertains to a housing, was it housing hub, zone hub? I forget what the terminology.
It's a neighborhood hub with a focus
Neighbor-
on housing.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're putting together a draft RFP that's going to have the necessary components of an urban renewal plan that will go through the urban renewal approval process in accordance with the statutory criteria. Some of the information within that plan is also applicable to the neighborhood hub plan, and some of it is not. But we're going to be using, for those areas of the plan that are going to be, that could be used for the hub plan, we're going to be looking to charge that off against the budget of Mass Housing. CDA is putting together $50,000 towards this initiative, $25,000 in the next fiscal year, and then the $25,000 in the following fiscal year. So that's additional money that we can apply to the urban renewal plan. So at the end, we're looking at it as a three-way split, probably with the Redevelopment Authority coming in. If the plan, so let me back up. We're also going to have to augment the plan so that it also encompasses criteria and information necessary requested by Mass Housing as part of the neighborhood hub. So that'll be in addition to the information that's compiled by the consultant for the urban renewal plan. So at the end of the day, what you essentially will have is a three-way split of the preparation of an urban renewal plan and a neighborhood hub plan, with Mass Housing paying the majority of it, CDA coming in for $50,000, and the Redevelopment Authority filling the gap.
Okay.
So we're hoping that we can get a revised RFP together in the next week or so, and Sarah will disseminate that or convene a meeting of the subcommittee, however the board decides to do that. But once again, probably at the next board meeting, we'd like to bring it back in its final form and fashion for full board approval, and then put it out to bid shortly thereafter.
Thank you.
think that is an interesting question. Does the subcommittee want to have an open meeting in another week or so to review the RFQ before it goes out?
Let me defer to the subcommittee.
Joan and Louis?
I guess my first question would be, are we required to have to do it as a meeting, or can we simply do it, review it and provide feedback?
Individually, Joan?
Yes.
You could
John
certainly,
Copeland. John, what your thoughts?
Yeah, so was this an appointed subcommittee?
was.
Well, I appointed the subcommittee so that we'd have equal involvement in the projects with the Redevelopment Authority.
Right. So the subcommittee, if it was formed as an official subcommittee, should have an open meeting.
Okay,
Okay,
that's the
Yep.
answer.
that's all I need to know.
Yep.
Okay,
So we'll plan that.
Okay.
Yes.
thank you. Any other comments or questions on the urban renewal plan for Pleasant Street? Okay, hearing none. The next item is the collaboration on projects in the TDI district and on South Main Street.
So I want Ken to add to what I have to say, but I'll just say that I think you knew, or a number of folks in the city talked to the mayor about the fact that Jim McKeague's TDI project, which is the Transformative Development Initiative, that's a mass development funded project, went after a number of grants and were successful in getting a $90,000 grant for technical assistance. And a very qualified firm was hired, and they're doing an analysis of the South Main Street area. And it's really good that Bill Kinney and Mike Dion have agreed to really be involved. Ken's going to be involved, and it's really comprehensively looking at real estate on South Main, how to attract new businesses, how to have more of a management plan for events and beautification of South Main Street. And parking will be looked at a little bit in relationship to all of those issues. We were out there the other day looking at, we went to Alexandra's and talked with them, and we were really looking at the block of buildings that Ken is working with a developer on, how the TDI group is bringing some businesses down. Mike Dion has funds to pay for rent for some of the building, for some of the new businesses that want to come, so that it softens their entry into new storefronts. And so there are just lots of efforts all coming together with really trying to focus on probably 2 or 3 blocks and see all that we can do to make those blocks more successful and bring more commercial activity. And Ken, do you want to tell them about the One Stop and some of the pieces you're working on?
Yeah, so the One Stop is it's an application process that's been developed by Mass Development. And there's probably close to 5 different components of it and 5 different funding categories. Expressions of interest are due on April 2nd, which is this Friday.
Good.
We are going to, through my office, we're going to be working with Sarah to submit an expression of interest through the Redevelopment Authority for the expansion of the historic district, essentially from the Academy building south down towards Kennedy Park, to try to pick up all those buildings, or to create a district that's historic and have the district approved by Mass Historic as well as federal National Park Service. To the extent that we're successful in doing that, then that would make all the buildings along Main Street from essentially the Cherry and Webb building, the Academy building, south to Kennedy Park, eligible for federal and state historic tax credits as part of the development. And that's a big and a significant item when it comes to the rehab of these buildings. So hopefully we'll secure some TDI funds for that. We're also going to be submitting an application specific to a building on South Main Street that's looking for some capital improvements, and there may be some grant funding available for that in terms of either elevator or roof repair. And that building would be used for commercial activity on the first floor with market rate and workforce housing on the second and third floors of that particular building. The overall emphasis of what we're trying to accomplish here comports with the recommendations within the urban renewal plan. If you recall, the urban renewal plan for the downtown specifically mentioned that the Redevelopment Authority needs to develop a strategy to energize underperforming properties along Main Street, primarily with commercial and retail activity on the first floor levels, with residential activity on the upper levels. This approach to securing monies for this initiative, it certainly relates to that recommendation, and it helps jumpstart what we hope will be the revitalization of Main Street as an area to work, live, and play. We think that if we can bring in some housing that's market rate and workforce oriented, we'll be bringing in a constituency that will have more disposable income and be more apt to frequent restaurants and other types of retail activity along Main Street and in and around Main Street itself. So it's all starting to come together.
Yes.
These things take some time. The buildings that we identified for eminent domain takings on South Main Street have been purchased by one developer. That's 3 different buildings, 2 of which we identified as potential takings. So that takes that issue off the table for the Redevelopment Authority. And I'm working with that developer to try to, ascertain all the necessary tax credits and other types of incentive financing that he may be eligible for to rehab these buildings.
Good. Very good. All right. Thank you, Ken. Thanks for the update. Thank you very much, Sarah.
You're welcome.
No other items are up now for open session. So at this time, I'm going to entertain a motion that we enter into executive session as I make a finding that an open session would have a detrimental effect on the negotiation of opposition of the public body with the 2 items that are noted on the agenda. And we will vote now not to come back into open session and to adjourn after executive session. Is there a motion for us to go into executive session?
Go into executive session. John
Who's
Erickson.
that?
John Erickson.
Name? John Erickson. Is there a second?
Second from Joan Maderis to go into
Second from
executive
Joan
session.
Maderis. All in favor, Joe Marshall, yes. Ann Keen,
Yes. And Keen, yes.
Lewis,
Louis Gonzalez, yes.
Johnny Erickson,
Erickson, yes.
and Joan Maderis.
Yes.
Joan. All in favor, aye. So moved. I'll meet you on the other side.
Okay.
Thank you.